time wasn't always here. Before the universe existed, before anything we could name or point to, there was no ticking. And that simple, strange sentence is a gentle place to begin, because it asks us to loosen the habit of thinking of time as a single, steady river. In the quiet of that thought, we can let our breathing slow and let the idea settle like a soft light across the mind. Imagine for a moment a beginning that is not a before and after in the way we usually mean, but a change in the very rules that make before and after possible. In that instant, the universe unfurled, and time came with it, like a shadow attached to space. And we can let that image rest, like a small stone dropped into a still pool, watching the ripples move outward with a calm, unhurried rhythm. Out beyond the bright neighborhoods of stars and galaxies, there are regions of space so empty that our usual measures of rhythm and routine lose their hold. Somewhere far from the nearest star, in the deep between galaxy clusters, where matter thins to almost nothing, the darkness is not merely the absence of light. It is a kind of complete, honest quiet. You could travel for geological epochs in any direction and never reach anything solid. And in that vastness, the texture of time changes. On Earth, we mark time by sunrises and seasons, by the steady drum of heartbeats and the turning of calendars. But in the deep void, there are almost no events to stitch moments together. A second remains a second in the language of physics, defined by the vibrations of cesium atoms. But the felt quality of a second, the way it carries meaning, depends on change, on events that give it shape. If you drift there in imagination, you might notice that time becomes something you are inside of, rather than something passing you. That line is worth holding for a moment, because it shifts the perspective from watching a clock to being the space in which clocks tick. In a place where hydrogen atoms might go millions of years without meeting another atom, there is almost nothing to mark the passage of moments, and so time takes on a meditative quality. Smooth, unbothered, patient in a way that is not waiting, but simply being. Now let us move gently toward gravity and the way mass sculpts the fabric of space and time. Imagine approaching a black hole, not to be swallowed, but to feel the curvature of space-time around it. The closer you get, the more gravity warps not just space, but time itself. And this is not metaphor, but measured physics. A clock falling toward an event horizon will, from a distant observer's viewpoint, appear to slow and slow, its ticks stretching out and reddening until they fade. From the clock's own perspective, however, its proper time continues normally. It crosses the horizon in finite time and experiences no sudden freeze. This is gravitational time dilation, a real and tested consequence of Einstein's general relativity. And it is gentle in its strangeness. Time is not absolute, but local, shaped by mass and motion. We live with this every day in small, practical ways. The satellites that guide our phones and maps must correct for both gravitational and motion-related effects on their clocks. Because they orbit in weaker gravity and move at high speeds, their onboard clocks tick at rates that differ slightly from clocks on Earth's surface, and engineers apply precise corrections so that GPS remains accurate. The corrections are tiny in human terms, microseconds each day, but without them, our navigation would drift by kilometers. And that quiet fact is a lovely reminder that the same physics that makes galaxies drift apart also helps us find our way home. Light, too, carries its own quiet lesson about time. A photon traveling from a distant galaxy to our eyes may take billions of years in the coordinates we use to chart the cosmos. But it is important to be careful with how we speak about the photon's experience. Photons do not have a rest frame in the way massive objects do, so it is not meaningful to assign them a proper time. Saying that a photon experiences no time is a shorthand that points to a deeper truth. At the speed of light, the usual notion of elapsed proper time for a massive observer breaks down. The poetic image of departure and arrival collapsing into a single instant is useful, but the precise physics asks us to remember that only observers with mass have proper time in the usual sense. So time is not one thing. It is not a single river flowing at the same rate everywhere. It is more like a fabric, and that fabric can be stretched or compressed, depending on how fast you move and how much mass is nearby. And that fabric is what Einstein taught us to see. Speed and gravity both shape the weave of time. Motion stretches it, mass pulls it, and every observer carries their own clock. There is no central clock for the universe. Each world, each traveler, each particle measures its own rhythm. And that plurality is part of the cosmos's quiet generosity. In the deep void between superclusters, where the nearest significant mass is incomprehensibly far away, time takes on a quality that is almost like meditation. Without the usual markers of change, moments flow in a smooth, unhurried way. It doesn't feel like it's going anywhere, because almost nothing is happening for it to carry forward. And that stillness is not empty, but full of a different kind of presence. On Earth, we are saturated with change. The planet rotates. Life breathes and ages. Geology reshapes continents. And our senses are tuned to a world of transitions. That saturation makes time feel scarce, a resource we are always slightly behind on. But out in the cosmic quiet, the universe is not in a hurry. There is a patience in cosmic processes that is not the patience of waiting, but the patience of natural pace. Stars form over tens of millions of years. Galaxies assemble over billions. These are not delays, but the natural tempos of physical processes, unfolding according to gravity, pressure, and the slow chemistry of the cosmos. To our short-lived minds, these timescales can feel alien, but they are simply the rhythms of a universe that does not measure itself by our calendars. There is a kind of comfort in that. The cosmos keeps its own time, and we are a brief, aware eddy within it. We are, in a very literal sense, made of deep time. The carbon in our bodies was forged in ancient stars. The water we carry has cycled through oceans and clouds long before eyes ever looked up. Our atoms carry the elapsed time of the universe, and that connection is both scientific and softly consoling. When we slow our breathing and listen, we can feel that continuity. The same physics that governs the slow drift of galaxies also governs the chemistry of our cells. That thought can be a gentle lullaby, a cosmic whisper that places our brief lives within a much larger, patient unfolding. If you let your attention rest on the idea of different clocks, you may notice how it changes the way you think about urgency. The clock on your wall is a social instrument, a tool for coordinating activity. But it is not the only measure of meaning. Meaning often comes from the quality of attention we bring to a moment, not from how many minutes it contains. In the deep spaces of the universe, where events are rare, the quality of a moment is not judged by productivity, but by presence. And that is a lesson we can bring home. When we slow down, when we let sentences breathe and let pauses lengthen, we begin to inhabit time differently, not as a thing that presses on us, but as a space we move within. There are practical echoes of these ideas in the instruments we use. Atomic clocks, for example, are marvels of precision, and their behavior in different gravitational potentials and velocities is a direct test of relativity. Experiments and observations, from GPS corrections to time dilation measured in particle accelerators, confirm that time is local and relational. We do not need to be mathematicians to appreciate the beauty of that. The same equations that predict the bending of starlight also ensure that your navigation app points you in the right direction. Science for sleep can be both accurate and soothing when we let the facts be gentle companions rather than sharp instruments. There is also a human story woven through these cosmic facts. For billions of years, the universe evolved without observers to notice it, and it will continue long after any life we know has ended. Stars will form and die on their own schedules. Galaxies will drift apart as space expands. Light will keep crossing the void, taking its long, patient journey. That continuity can feel lonely, or it can feel reassuring, depending on how we hold it. If we choose reassurance, we can let the vast timescales remind us that our anxieties are small in the grand ledger of things, and that there is a kind of freedom in being brief. As you listen, or read, or let these words settle, you might imagine drifting outward from Earth, past the familiar blue and green, past the clustered lights of galaxies, into the quiet between them. Picture the slow, patient expansion of space, the faint glow of distant stars, and the long, unhurried crossing of photons that began their journeys before our species existed. There is a cosmic storytelling here that is both factual and meditative. The universe tells its story in long sentences of light and gravity, and we are fortunate to be able to hear a little of it. Let that image be a soft companion to your breathing. If your mind wanders to the small urgencies of the day, bring it back gently, like guiding a drifting boat to shore. Notice the rhythm of your chest, the slow in and out, and let each exhale be a small release. You are, for this moment, aligned with a universe that is patient and unhurried. The science we have touched is precise and tested, but it can also be a balm. Gravitational time dilation, the relativity of simultaneity, the absence of a photon's rest frame. These are not only technical facts, but invitations to widen our sense of time. Relax into that widening. There is a final, quiet thought to carry with you as this narration slows toward its close. The cosmos does not demand that time be the same for everyone. It offers a plurality of rhythms, and within that plurality, there is room for our brief, attentive lives. We are not separate from deep time. We are a brief, aware eddy in its current, and that connection can be a source of calm. Let the atoms in your body remind you of ancient stars. Let the slow chemistry of your cells echo the patient processes of galaxies. And let your breathing match the gentle tempo of a universe that is vast and unhurried. As you drift toward sleep, imagine the fabric of time stretching and folding like a soft blanket, holding you in a safe, expansive now. If you like, stay with this feeling a while longer. Let the cosmic whisper of slow processes and patient light carry you into rest. This is Calming Science Stories, meditative science, and bedtime science woven together. A relaxing science lullaby for the curious mind. Sleep-friendly science does not rush. It invites. Let it invite you now.